So we've all read Nurtured by Love, and we all know that Shinichi Suzuki said you only need to practice on the days that you eat. And that's all well and good, like that's awesome. But when you actually get down to the brass tacks of it, it can be really challenging to do this day in and day out in such a way that kids move forward through the repertoire, they gain skills, they gain pieces, they gain confidence, they gain musicality, and they learn how to learn. And I think that's a big part of our job as teachers and as parents. It's enabling and facilitating our children in how to learn. And that's knowing when they need a bit of spoon feeding, and knowing when to give them the spoon, and knowing when to give them the spoon and the jar, and knowing when to say, the food's over there, go help yourself. And it's not always a linear path. Sometimes kids will be happy to DIY, and then they hit their new piece and they need spoon feeding again. And it's very, very tempting to say, but you can read that, you can work that stuff out yourself. Sometimes psychologically they just need someone to hold their hand and just guide them through the motions again. And I go back to the idea of spoon feeding literally because it's very apt for what we're trying to do. We are enabling our children to become confident learners. And sometimes that means that we will explain things to them they already know. And sometimes that means we have to sit patiently and let them explain things to us that we already know. And they know we know it, but that's okay. They want the practice of talking through it. And we need to be flexible and adaptive, and that's a constant challenge. So here are a few of the gimmicks that I use as a parent and as a teacher in my house every day and on a week-by-week basis and term by term. I'm always trying to throw new ideas out so that people can try them, and they might work beautifully for you. They might be terrible for you. Some of the things that work really well for my students don't work at all for my child or for me, and vice versa. Something that has worked really well for students and in our house is this thing. I bought it for $5. You can obviously make your own, okay? It's just a spreadsheet with pretty colours. I felt like it was worth spending $5 on it though, because I can wipe clean and use it again. We use one of these for piano. It's got the days of the week down here, and it's got all the pieces along the top. And every day we get to put a tick in every box, and that makes everyone very, very happy. We've also started using one for violin, except that now we have book 1, book 2, book 3, book 4, book 5, book 6 along the top, and the days of the week. And then because we have a rotation happening for violin, it's either book 1 or 2 or 3 that gets ticked, one of those 3 books, plus 4 and 5 and 6. And that brings me to my next idea, which is the way to get better at something is to do it. So if your child is up to the 8th piece in book 1, they play the first 8 pieces every day. Yeah, they don't leave anything out. All the twinkles and the pieces. If they're up to the 17th piece in book 1, you want to play the 17 pieces every day. And this is really easy if you actually incorporate it from the beginning, so that when you learn twinkles and you graduate from twinkles, you say, great, now we get to play twinkles every day. This is the best. This is so awesome. And yes, you need to have your cheerleading face on, and you need this level of enthusiasm, so then it happens. And you will have to have the same level of enthusiasm for the 2,834th busy stop as you did the first time they got the rhythm right. And you can. You really, really can. You just go, wow, this is my child, and you're doing this thing, and this is like speaking another whole language fluently while juggling, and you're doing it. This is amazing. Whatever they're doing with an instrument, it's actually amazing. If you don't believe me, you start having lessons, and you'll know how damn amazing it is. So, every piece, every day. This doesn't work when your kid's in book 6. But hopefully, they did every piece every day until about the end of book 3. And then you can start rostering things. So you might say, okay, we're going to play the odds or the evens out of book 1 and 2, and then we'll play all of book 3 and your new book 4 piece. That goes pretty well. Or if odds, evens don't work, they didn't work for us at all, that was awful. We would say, okay, Monday is book 1, book 3, book 4. Tuesday is book 2, book 3, book 4. Wednesday is 1, 3, 4. Thursday is 2, 3, 4. Okay, you do the maths and work it out. Within that, some kids like to play the books in order, whether that's forwards or backwards, so it's getting easier as they get towards the end of their practice. Depends on your child and their brain and how it works. So you need to try that stuff out, work out what works for you. I can tell you all the different things to do, but 80% of the things I say won't work for your situation because I've got many different ways of wangling it. Here are some of the things that I like to use. Props. These are cats. Oh, dead kitty. These cats work really well for repetitions. They also work well for having a new audience member for every piece that you play. They're just little grumpy cats. I bought this set off eBay. You can buy them at grossly inflated prices from other places, but I recommend that you just hop onto eBay and look for miniature cats or garden cats or something like that. Anyway, there's about a dozen of them in here, so that gets you through the first 12 pieces of book 1. Or you can set them all up as an audience and, you know, every time there's a terrible piece, one cat's going to go and hide in the cupboard. And, you know, use your discretion there. You can use that as a confidence bolstering activity for a child that's not feeling great. Oh no, that was so lovely. They're all staying to listen. You can also use it for a kid who's a bit overconfident, like, oh, gee, that piece was really fast. This one's ears hurt. He's going to go hang out in the cupboard for a while. So they're just a tool. They're a way of giving feedback without saying things like, oh, but that was so fast, or oh, that was really rushed, or don't you think your fingers should have been on the tips? You can give the feedback in a positive way, make it a bit funny with, oh, I'm just going to send this cat around the back. They're just going to go and have a look at your fingers and make sure they're still on their tips, okay? Yeah, okay, well, great. I also do silly things like stick them on scrolls or balance them and just put up with the rattle because it's worth it. You're creating a funny activity. People will laugh. The cat looks grumpy. When the fingers get up on their tips, you change it for a happy cat. Like this one. Ah, see? Pretty. So yeah, miniature things, great mileage. If your kid has Polly Pockets or lots of little Lego people, also pretty good for that stuff. I have a collection of novelty erasers. And I think I bought a box of 100 from Kmart, and a lot of them have gone to new homes because they say things like, oh, you were so good at balancing that cupcake. Would you like to take that cupcake home? Okay, you take it home and see if you can balance it on your, oh, that's so amazing. All the things. Now, because they're rubber, they usually don't rattle on violins. And oh, my duck's missing its beak. That's sad. Kmart is a great place to grab stuff like this. T-Rex. Yes, great. You can also balance them and say things like, oh, I'm just going to get the kangaroo to keep an eye on your wrist. Do you think you can? So again, they're another way for me to be a little bit funny and a little bit creative without nagging constantly. And as a parent, getting rid of the nagging in practice time is huge. If you can kick the nagging and replace it with, oh, that was really funny, let's do this again, you will be on a winning streak, I promise. I'm dropping my paddle pop sticks. Now, these are a thing I just found. I saw the pretty colours and went, oh, they're amazing. They're just foam paddle pop sticks. You could have regular ones or au naturel, wooden ones, if that floats your boat, whatever you want. Then you're going to need a Sharpie, because we all need Sharpies, just not for drawing on the walls, right? And this is, here we go, this is legitimately how I come up with review ideas. Open up the book, especially if you're a mum that doesn't have this as a first instrument. This is what I have to do with the piano repertoire because I'm not a pianist and I have no idea what comes next. Shh, don't tell on me. Paddle pop stick, Sharpie, write the piece on the paddle pop stick. So I'm going to write busy, busy, stop, stop. Oh, it writes so nicely. This is good, I like this. And then you can shove these in a cup. And if you have the kind of practice roster thing where you've got 2 or 3 books that you want to spread over 2 days, write your 2 or 3 books down the paddle pop sticks, 2 cups. Day 1, you move about half the sticks to the next cup because you played them all. Yep, great. If something doesn't sound great, you put it back into the cup again. Day 2, you move all the rest of the sticks across to the cup. Oh, great, rinse and repeat. That can work really well for kids who like scrambling, who like suspense and mixing things up and don't like playing things in order. If your child is still mastering the sequence of techniques within a book, I don't recommend it. Or try and set it up so that maybe their 3 latest pieces aren't on the paddle pop sticks, and you review all the technique that they need beforehand. The other thing you can do with stuff like this, if you've got, a book 6 or 7 kid and their teachers ask for 5 particular book 1 or 2 pieces to focus on before that book 7 piece, great. You grab your 5 paddle pop sticks for those pieces, stick them in a cup. They have to play those before they get to the new piece. Of course, in an ideal world, those pieces would be shiny and your kid would be telling you, oh, I already know how to do that bowing in Ramo Gavotte because it's in Minuet in G back in book 2. And that is the dream. We are building that level of fluency into our kids so that every time they look at a new piece, they say, I already know 80% of this. Where's the new stuff? Oh, that's all it is. Piece of cake. Okay, so I'm doing my twinkle variations. I've got Busy Busy Stop Stop, Dr. Suzuki, Run Pony, Elephant Elephant, the triplets. Not everyone plays them. That's something for you to work out. Kookaburra and Twinkle Theme. Now, word to the wise, be careful about your color coding or lack thereof. If you make all your twinkles red, you may find that your child grabs all those ones first. Or if you have a child that likes to control practice and be in charge, maybe color coding works for you. You have all of book 1 a red, all of book 2 a yellow. I don't know. Again, I'm just trying to give you ideas that may not have come up so that you can springboard and get creative at home, because creativity is awesome. Okay, so there's my first little set of paddle pop sticks. They don't take long to do. Doo-ba-doo-doo. Oops, they're facing the wrong way. Okay, I made a video also using my unicorn pegs. It's an early book 1 kind of video. These are my unicorns and my rainbows. Oh, can't focus on them. There we go. On the back of each peg, you'll notice that there are some double ups in designs. They're not all unique. Is written a piece. I have all the twinkle variations, and then I have the pieces up to I Come Little Children. And again, this can work really, really well for a kid that likes mixing things up and is saying, oh, but that's so easy. Or a child who gets a little bit anxious and demand avoidant about playing a particular piece. If they know they're coming up to the piece that they're not good at yet, and they start to stuff around, or they start to stall, or they start to argue with you. Can you tell I've been through all this? This kind of stuff can be great because it's sprung on them and there's no arguing about it. And there's still 4 more pieces left that they know that are easy and that they like playing. So playing their new piece, they've got a sweetener on the other side of it. So stuff like these pegs can be great. I also have a set of plain pegs, little gold ones, that I like to use for repetitions. So I'll say, oh, that's so good. Let's do it 10 more times so that it's really, really strong in your brain. I get out my 10 little gold pegs, and for every correct repetition, you can pin it onto your child's clothing. This is also good for, oh, I'm gonna take my peg back, which I often hint at or say, oh, watch that bow, because if your bow's crooked, I'm going to have to take my peg back. And magically the bow gets straighter, and I very, 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 very rarely have to take a peg back. But it works so much better than me saying, can you watch your bow? I think your bow is crooked. No, it's not. We've all been there. Rubber bands. Rubber bands are cheap. They come in lots of nice colours. Oh! And they're really fun because you can make rubber band guns out of them and you can flick them. That's good for coordination too. Hand-eye coordination, ha ha! And also don't flick yourself in the thumb coordination. So rubber bands can be a reward thing because for every piece that's really nice, you hand over a rubber band, the kid gets to stack them on their wrist or pile them on the table or do whatever. And then if you have a child that needs that moving around and reward activity, you take them outside and shoot all the rubber bands. And then they get to run around collecting them all. And hey, we've just done some maths and some PE and some good practice at the same time. So I really like rubber bands. They're also great for demonstrating things like sympathetic resonance because you stretch them and you can get the child to pluck them and have a look at how much they vibrate. And then we can talk about the amplitude of the vibration. We can talk about the pitch changing, whether it's stretched thinner and longer or fatter and shorter, and how that changes the pitch of the vibration, which is kind of cool. And if you want to stretch them on like 3 different length objects or hold them at 3 different pitches, you can play stuff like lightly roll on them because you only need 5 different pitches. I'm blowing your mind. So stuff like this is a fun way of combining science into music and also just having fun, right? Like if you've got a child that has great concentration but not for one thing, break up their practice. Play Twinkle and then get a rubber band out and say, how much can you make the band? Wow, now, can you make your strings vibrate that much? This is also good for cellists because their strings really do vibrate that much and they can see them. But for violinists, it helps us understand the concept of the bow and all those tiny little hooks on the hairs plucking the string and creating vibration, and how vibration then becomes sound. Science. And then we can also use it to talk about sympathetic resonance when you put a sympathetic tone, so you're playing a D on the A string with your 3rd finger, and if it's in tune, your D string will vibrate in sympathy because it's the same pitch. So looking at vibration is fun, and flicking rubber bands is fun. So, have some fun with stuff. Practice doesn't have to be serious, and practice doesn't have to be only with the violin in your hands. Sometimes the best practice is actually done when the instrument is put down, the brain stops thinking about, am I holding the bow? Is it on my shoulder? Is the bow straight? Is the note in tune? We stop thinking about all that stuff because we're not doing it, and we just think about the concept, and then we bring the concept back to what we're doing, and really interesting developments happen then. Oh, this is another thing I love. I won't get a black one, they're hard to see. Yeah. This is really based around the idea of catch them being good. Because every time you hear something nice, you turn your face on, click the thing. It's that simple. Don't forget the face. You can't sit there going, you've got to do the face. So this is great for kids who get distracted by what you're saying, or kids who, and then forget what they're doing, because then, you made me forget what the, can you tell? I've been there. I like these for non-verbal feedback. So I set them to 0. They go up to 9,999, which is pretty exciting. And then, every time I hear your 3rd finger ring, again, you don't have to say it. You don't have to say, oh, that one didn't ring. You just don't click the thing. And this becomes the positive feedback. And it's also kind of unobtrusive enough that I can still play a Lego. Yun dun 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 da 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 dun 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 ya da 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 dun yun dun dun dun. Okay, whatever it's going to be. So it's always good to say things like, I'm going to count how many ringing 3rd fingers I hear. I'm going to count how many straight bows there are. Find the positive thing. Do not start with, I'm going to count how many times your bow falls off the Chrysler Highway. Because that's mean. That's saying, how many times are you going to fall over? Right? We're not doing that. So we don't use these to count mistakes. We use them to celebrate good stuff. It can be to celebrate beautifully played pieces. I like my positive reinforcement to be a little more frequent than that. So I try and look for something that's within the piece. And again, you choose. Are you going to pick your focus for the day and say, every time I hear this thing, or is it going to be a different focal point for every piece? I don't know. That's your thing to negotiate or for your child to set up and decide. But these are awesome. Clickers are great. And again, great for just repetition. Let's do it 20 times. You don't have to say, oh, you got that one wrong. You just don't give the click, okay? Positive reinforcement, click. Don't want to positively reinforce it. Don't say anything. Shut up. Resist temptation. Just don't click the thing. They're also great for squids. but then you have to do some maths. So this idea of bow control and developing a flexi bow hold, I really like to start it at pre-twinkler stage. No, I really like to start it when they've got their thumb on the inside. But honestly, a lot of my little pre-twinklers do it anyway with their thumb on the outside, just because they see everyone else doing it at group lesson. They go, oh, that's cool. They don't look like me doing it. They can't do this. That's fine. They're participating. They're learning at their level. They're looking at the activity that we're doing and they're accessing it with their current level of knowledge. And it means that when I do ask them to do it properly in book 2 and 3, it's going to look like this for a bit. But because they've already watched us and they've tried it, it's going to become supple pretty fast. And that's going to make book 4 and 5 a lot easier. So at home, oh wow, you're up to 30 already. Keep going. Because when you say to a kid, I want you to do 10,000 of these, they freak out. But if you say, do you reckon we can get to 50? And I usually give this to the parent to hold. And the parent, I say, you've got to count the things. So the parent sits there clicking away. And the child and I chat about something. Doesn't matter what it's about, right? It can be anything. But you keep them talking for a couple of minutes. And generally, if you can keep them talking for 2 minutes, that's mostly me doing the talking, let's be honest, because they're actually thinking about what they're doing. But if you keep them talking for a little while, suddenly they realise that they're halfway to 100 and it actually didn't take any time at all. Oh yeah, and then we do this. And then we try and find something else to talk about. The weather. Yeah. We had as much rainfall in the last 4 days as we did all year. Can you believe that? Yeah, my backyard flooded. My dog wouldn't go outside to do a wee. It's terrible. Every time I wanted him to go outside, I had to carry him down the stairs and put him out through that door. And that was so annoying. Oh, look, we got up to 120. Right? That easy. Clickers are great. They're about $2, $3 off eBay. Highly recommend. Get yourself 5 of them. Okay. Oh, dice. Everyone's got dice in their house, but I've got blank dice. Now, if you don't have blank dice, it doesn't matter. But these are great because you take your dice and you can use these, you can write numbers on them or dots on them to correlate to piece numbers for review purposes. Or you can do what I really like, which is write stuff on their faces like this. Clean, can't get to focus. Clean string crossings. That says clean string crossings. I've got dynamics. Walking, because it's good to walk and play a piece at the same time. Bow hold, tempo. I've missed one. Bow hold, sympathetic resonance. Oh no, I've got tempo on there twice because that's really important. On the other dice I have great posture, phrasing, ringing thirds, intonation, straight bow, fingers on tips. So I've just picked 12 things I think are kind of important so that we can roll the dice and go, great, let's play this piece with really good tempo and great posture. You can obviously just roll 1 dice with your 6 most important ideas. Or you can make a little list from 1 to 6. Great posture, fingers on tips, ringing third fingers, nice bow hold, straight bow. And then when you roll the dice, you check off what that number is on the list. Okay, so you don't need blank dice like me or a Sharpie. You can just make a regular list, number 1 to 6 or 1 to 12 if you're going to, or 2 to 12 if you're going to use 2 dice instead. Don't number it 1 to 12 if you're using 2 dice because number 1 will never come up. Make sure it's 2 to 12. 2's your minimum dice roll. 2 to 12 if you're going to use 2 dice, if you want 2 focal points per piece. Again, this is just another way of changing practice up so it's not the same every day. For that reason, I've also made videos which have the accompaniment parts for book 1 and book 2 and book 3 because it's another way of changing it up and testing how well do you really know this piece. If you don't know your rhythm really well, you'll get sucked over onto my side of things and you need to get your music out and review Hunter's Chorus really, really well. If you know it, great, we get a concert performance out of it. So these are just things I use, different strategies, different tactics, and different bits of stuff to make my life easier, both as a Suzuki parent and as a Suzuki teacher. I tell you what, being a Suzuki parent is so much harder. When you're a teacher, they actually do what you ask them to do, and you get to see them once a week and have all the fun stuff, and then send them away with a little to-do list. And when you're the parent, you have to do the to-do list every day, and that's the hard work. So I'm not disputing this. I'm not sugarcoating it for you. It's hard work. It is hard work for me personally to remember, let alone do, to remember to push play on the piano book 1 and book 2 CD every day. And then violin, we don't always listen book 1 to 7. We're listening more like 4 to 7, but I try and get 1, 2, 3 in there a couple times a week. It's hard work to go, oh yeah, okay, no, I've got to press play. You just zone out and forget about it. And I have my life pretty automated. I have 2 playlists on my phone. One is Suzuki piano, one is Suzuki violin. I also have one for Suzuki voice, but it's divided into odds and evens. And Audrey is pretty good about telling me what day it is, or I ask her what date it is, and telling me whether it should be odds or evens. So we make it work, but it's hard work. It is hard work sometimes to stay positive and to catch 3 things that are awesome before saying something critical. And that's where I fall down all the time. I see something that needs fixing and I forget to say, oh, I love your straight bow. That's such a nice bow hold. Oh, your feet are really great. Before I say, is your 3rd finger on its tip? And when I do that, the world comes to an end. So the thing I have to work on all the time is this feeling of catching the good stuff. I've got to do it at least 3 times before I say something critical, because otherwise the world comes to an end in a big, fancy way. So for me, Suzuki is every day, and Suzuki is a philosophy. It's a life philosophy. It's not a way that we learn an instrument or something we do once a week at a lesson. It is very much create the environment and hope that the environment nurtures those attributes in your child. And when something is going wrong in our house, it's usually because there's something off with the environment. And a lot of the time that's about me, because I am a huge part of my child's environment. So it's on me then to look at my behavior and how I'm dealing with life, circumstances, situations, and think about then what that's putting into my child's environment. And that's not esoteric, that's very, very literal. If I'm feeling like I'm having a hard life, my child feels like she has a hard life because that's coming out in my behavior. So it's on me, and that's a huge responsibility, I think. Suzuki works if you work at it. If you turn up to a lesson once a week and put the CD on at home, it doesn't work. It does take building a whole environment and really looking at your life and then considering how that is going to inculcate or suffocate other behaviours and other choices. And we've been doing our own version of the carrot seed. The Carrot Seed is a delightful children's book, and it's about a little boy who waters a carrot seed and he can't see anything, it's under the surface. And everyone around him says, that won't come up, forget about it, nothing will happen. And of course, when you plant a carrot, most of the stuff that's happening is happening under the surface where you don't get to see it until you're ready to harvest the carrot. But the little boy keeps on watering the carrot and clearing the weeds around it and taking care of it despite everyone else going, you're wasting your time, what are you doing, stop bothering. Keeps on taking care of it, keeps on doing the things in this belief that there is a carrot underground. And then one day it hit critical mass and the carrot did indeed come up and it was huge. And I think that's a lot of the work that we do. We do this unending work of watering, of weeding, of making sure all the conditions are right, of, sometimes moving in the greenhouse and sometimes taking it away and moving things around so it gets more sun, less sun, more water, less water, too hot, too cold. We're constantly changing our approach to best nurture the seed. And we have to do a lot of that in the belief that the seed is growing because we can't actually see all the roots going down into the soil. But if we keep on working and keep on building those roots, and keep on playing book one, keep on listening, keep on playing book one, every piece every day, the big stuff gets easy. And I feel like I can say that we're on the end of book 6 now in Audrey's violin journey. And I can see every day that playing one until the middle of book 4, we just played every piece every day. And I can see that density and that consistency has prepared her so well, because when she learned Remo Gavotte, I had nothing to do with it. When she learned Remo Gavotte, she told me, but that's the same as Long, Long Ago variation in book 2. I said, yeah, same bowing. Yeah, good one, you're right. Well, that's the same as Minuet in G in book 2. Now you go down, up, 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 down, up, 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 up. Yeah, you're right. Good one. Oh, you already know that. That's cool. She had a weird note and I pointed it out and, oh, I got that wrong in country dance too. Yeah, but now you've got it right in country dance, haven't you? Yeah, it's easy. It's probably easy here too. And magically the problem was fixed without us practicing it 25 times. Just the fact of her knowing I had that problem, I fixed that problem in another piece. Oh, I can do it correctly here. That's actually fine. Like magic. And I've observed it with other students as well. I let them play me something. And then I say, sorry, have we done that thing before? Oh. What about this bit? The other bit they screwed up. What about this bit? Is that new or have we done it before? Oh, no, we did that back in Humorous. Cool. What about that shift? Because that's really gnarly looking. That must be new, right? It's not new. Then they tell me where we did it before and I go, oh, cool. So it's easy for you? Yeah, it's easy. Great. Can you just play me this one more time? Because I forgot to take notes the first time around. I didn't really forget. Yeah, okay. Guess what? They didn't do any extra practice. We're talking about the same lesson. They played the piece. They told me where they'd already learnt 90% of the piece. And then they played the piece again. Guess what? The second time around, it sounds like they've worked on it for 2 weeks. Because they've remembered that they already know all that stuff. We didn't actually do it all again. We just remembered that we knew it. And that comes from learning it well the first time around and then reviewing it so that they do actually already know it. If they learnt it really well and then they just chucked it and they never played it again, they're not going to have any better luck on their second run through of the new piece. But if they learned it and they've reviewed it and they've actually got it, just remembering that they know that technique, they have it the next time around they try to play it. So this comes down to life, right? We learn to drive a car. We drive the car every day. I recently went overseas for a month. When I came back, I got in my car and I had this like momentary, oh, it's not a manual. Because I learned to drive in a manual car and now I drive an automatic. So my default setting is manual. And when I get into my automatic car without driving for a month, my brain reverts to, where's the stuff? It's a manual. 10 minutes later, I was fine. Like I'd never had a month off driving. But that's because it's a skill I've practiced every day. I've mastered. I tend to speed a little. Don't do that so much after having a month's holiday. But my point is, it's a skill I mastered and that I practiced, and that once I told myself, no, you know how to do this. Remember, you learned in a manual. That's why you're freaking out. You've driven an automatic for like 5 years. You're fine. I was actually fine. I just had to get over it. So look, I have rambled a little bit. I'm really sorry. I have tried to combine elements of philosophy with elements of just put your boots on and get on with it, everyday life. I think we as parents and as educators have a huge responsibility. Sorry, I can't lighten that for you. That's just the deal. But I do feel like there are a bunch of tricks that you can use to make that easier for yourself and for your child. And if you start catching yourself being good, that's a really good start. So try and finish the day looking back on all the things you did really well. And it can be tiny things. It can be things like, oh, I thought I was going to lose my shit when they left that thing on the floor, but I just got over it. celebrate that. Okay, if you didn't react the way you might usually, or react the way you wish you wouldn't, celebrate that. If you were able to take a breath and go, oh, that's a small thing, celebrate that. Hang on to that and remember it, because you're going to be able to do it again tomorrow. If you did it today, it's okay. You can make it into a new habit. And I promise you that I am right there on that road of catching myself in the crappy moments, and I'm getting better at catching the good ones. Going, okay, well, I really screwed that up. However, 13 minutes past 7, I really did well, because when she tipped over that cup of tea, I said, oh, just go and grab a towel and wipe it up. That was awesome. Yeah, go me. And, I didn't lose my shit when her bow fell off the Chrysler Highway for the 81st time. I said, oh, and I made some silly faces. I don't know where I got the energy to do that from, but I made some silly faces and she laughed about it, and then she fixed it. And that, I think, is healthy. That's what lets us move forward with our lives. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other with your paddle pop sticks, or your dice, or your unicorn pegs, or your clicker, or your rubber bands. Don't shoot them at people. It's very tempting sometimes. Aim for leaves. But I hope that there's something in here that you can use and take away and help you in your daily challenge as a Suzuki parent. Good luck.